I remember when I was only 11, I turned on the radio, I was sick in bed, and heard all of Marlowe's Faustus being played. So I went down to the library, the first time I went, let's say, to the public library, and took out Marlowe's Faustus and read it, and was enchanted, because I think Faustus was really looking for knowledge about the true nature of things, not about pleasure or something. And it was only by the sacrifice that he made that he could really understand the nature of the universe. So I became an achiever somewhat by being captured by the Faustus modern legend.
Oh, Faustus, leave these frivolous demands which strike a terror to my fainting soul.
What, is great Mephistopheles so passionate at being deprived of the joys of heaven? Learn thou, Faustus, manly fortitude, and scorn those joys thou never shalt possess.
Mankind has three old classic dreams. One of them is to travel to the moon and other planets. One is to change one metal into another, such as lead into gold, the old alchemical dream of transmutation of elements. And the third one is to achieve physical immortality, or at least to live to a very extended age. Now, these three classic dreams, the first two have been achieved in our own lifespan, our own lifetimes. We are now traveling to the moon and other planets. This is not a dream anymore. We can now change one element into another by advanced physics techniques. This is now achieved. So it's not at all unreasonable to believe that the third dream of living very much longer will be achieved during the span of lives now being lived. And there's much evidence gathering to support this view.
In 1947, Life magazine told how Walford, on the right here, and a buddy hit it big in Reno at the Palace Club and Harold's Club. They figured out a scheme to beat the roulette wheel and walked off with $6,500. Big bucks in 47. But now, 40 years later, the gamble is on life, on making it last for a long time. Walford thinks it's a bet he'll win.
You're in your mid-60s, so you think you're going to live another 60 years, right?
Well, that's the title of the book, and maybe even longer, yes. That's a conservative estimate in general for depending on when one starts on this kind of regime.
What would be an example of something we would eliminate to increase longevity?
Well, you have to cut down on calorie intake and keep the nutritive quality of the diet very high. There are about 50 years of animal experimentation, mainly in rats and mice, but a wide variety of other species, showing pretty uniformly that if you decrease the calorie intake, but at the same time increase the nutritive quality of the diet, that you retard the rate of aging and extend maximum lifespan substantially. Well, this is a fully fed mouse. He eats as much as he wants to, and he's quite fat and generally slower than the other mouse, and he'll die much sooner. The calorie-restricted mouse, he's been calorie-restricted since time of weaning, is a lot more active and faster moving. He's smaller and healthier. Whoops. And then the other one, I'll just take that off, and you can see the difference in activity of them and the size, and if you can appreciate the coat color, well, this one is a lot easier to catch than this one, who's oops. There we go. So this one will live a lot longer. You can see that his coat is much prettier than the other. He's more unhappy about being suspended that way, and he's generally a much more vigorous and healthy mouse. The question arises whether this is applicable to humans. Well, I think it almost certainly is. To begin with, it works all the way across the animal kingdom. It's not just a rodent experiment or phenomenon.
UCLA medical professor Roy Walford is testing out a similar diet on humans, namely himself and 7 others sealed inside a giant terrarium in Arizona called the Biosphere. 15 months into the experiment, Walford spoke to us from the Biosphere studio.
The results with the blood pressure, blood cholesterol, fasting blood sugar, white blood cell count, since they parallel the same changes that we see in animals, lead me to infer that the present biospherians, if they kept on this diet throughout their lives, would, on the average, live far longer than they would otherwise have lived, and their maximum lifespan would exceed 110 or 120 or 130 years.
Centuries come and go. To be unable to grow old is terrible. Death is not the worst. There are things more horrible than death. Can you imagine enduring centuries, experiencing each day the same futile things?
Aging is a biological process that we can bring under control pretty well. We can certainly retard it right today, and we might eventually be able to stop it completely. This doesn't mean that people are going to live forever, however, because we'll never be able to do away with accidents. If you do away with everything and people live forever, that is, potentially they live forever, no disease, no inherent aging, but accidents remain the same as today. 5% of deaths now are due to accidents. So if that's the only reason that people are dying, how long will they live? And the answer is 600 years. You can calculate it. If that were the only thing killing people, this curve would come across the 0 point at 600. So the idea of a total immortality is out, but the idea of your extended lifespan is in.
Hello, hi, Dr. Walford. Alan Over. Glad to meet you.
So Alan, I made 4 servings in the wooden bowl. This is 1 serving, and it's about 500, 550 calories.
This is 1 serving? This is a lot of food.
That would be 1 serving, yes. So
and this is equal to that sandwich I made?
More or less, it's about equal in calorie content to your turkey sandwich.
It's very good. How old do you think you're going to be eventually?
Well, older than I would be. I've just been on this diet for about 10 years or so, maybe a little more, so I certainly didn't start when I was young. If my destiny on a normal diet had been to live to be 90, then on the diet I should add another 15 or 20 years. So that would put me out to be 110, starting at 60.
That's where it would put me if I started around now. 110. See, I always thought it'd be nice to live to 106. 110 is even better. This doesn't look so appetizing anymore. I got plenty of crunch. I didn't need the pretzels. And this wouldn't be bad for dessert, or am I denied dessert now?
No, that would be fine, sure. An apple is good dessert.
Yeah, you would, your heart would sink if I took out the frozen yogurt promptly.
Well, no, yours would.
Roy Walford's obsession for extending his lifespan began at age 17 as a student in San Diego, California.
I became interested in prolonging life in high school, actually, because I was interested in a number of sciences and in literature and history and a number of things, and in theater. And it seemed there were so many opportunities and things to do in the modern world that the first thing one had to do was to live longer and healthier and prolong lifespan.
While there may seem to be elements of hedonism in Roy Walford motivating his personal quest for longevity, he prefers to think of his outlook as an appetite for life. A life he anticipates may be a long one if he continues his restrictive diet.
After all, there are 7 deadly sins. One is gluttony, avarice, lust, greed. All you have to do is give up gluttony, and you've got 6 to play with if you really have to sin a lot.